recording and all this kind of stuff.
Hello, everybody. Today is the usual weekly meeting of the Gateway API. And please keep in mind that this is under the CNCF regulation. So, yeah, just basically be nice to each other as always, as in this kind of meetings. Today is May 20th, and we have a good list of attendees here. If you haven't written down your name yet, and if you want to do, please. Also, if you want to switch on your camera, you are very welcome. And also, I don't know if there are some people who are new to this kind of meeting and who want to introduce themselves. Otherwise, we can just move on with the agenda planned for today. Okay, I guess we can get started. And the first one, of course, is the recycle updates with the scoping phase that is ending today. I don't know, Rob, if you have something to say about it. Honestly, I know that Shane is the release manager in charge, but probably you have way more context than I have at the moment.
Yeah, Shane is the right person. He commented a bit before that when we settled on this date, he hadn't thought about Red Hat Summit that is happening right now today, and so this is not the best time for him to be closing up a release cycle. So we'll help out with that, but. Suffice to say, scoping ends in 12 hours. For those that don't remember the high-level details, we've said that, hey, standard channel, we're trying to limit the size of experimental channels. So everything that comes into experimental channel needs to also have something corresponding going out. Right now, we have 3 people that have volunteered to graduate something to standard channel, which is great. Thank you, everyone. It's good to see this moving forward, and we'll try and be supportive of that. That means that we have 3 slots of the very, very large number of experimental features that have been proposed. We also said in this release cycle to try to increase our velocity and help address Ingress Nginx feature gaps. If there were any features proposed that addressed an Ingress Nginx feature gap, we would give them up to 2 additional slots. So we're looking at a maximum of 5. If you look at the top proposals there, I think if you sort by top, Mattia, it's fairly easy to see which ones are. It's a little bit further down. Yeah. Sorry, at the top of the comments. Yeah, right in there, middle of your screen to the right.
Where is it?
Scroll down a bit. Sorry, to your right now. Now middle and to the right.
What
3 o'clock from where your cursor. Move your cursor directly right.
What are you looking for?
That. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Wait, but top, please.
Top. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So supported features. I don't think this is really Ingress Nginx specific. Oh wait, no, we're on standard features. Can we go back to experimental? Sorry.
Yes.
But top here. So east-west authorization, Ingress Nginx doesn't deal with that. So I don't think we can claim that one is for Ingress Nginx.
North-south, we probably have a good case for, I think.
Yeah. So this next one is very much a top feature request from Ingress Nginx users. So we can call that Ingress Nginx, as something that's filling an Ingress Nginx use case. If we keep on going down the list, client cert verification, I'm 99% sure that was fairly high on the, but I think there are others here too. So that's likely. External gateway controllers, no, unfortunately.
There's
And
an,
default,
well, not for Ingress Nginx, certainly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Carry on.
Yeah,
It
so
sounds like
I would
you're just
think
rattling
that
off the ones for Ingress Nginx stuff.
yeah, so I think the overlap here is for sure that first one of north-south auth. I'll need to look at the survey results to see if client cert verification fits in. I think it does too. So those will probably be the ones that fit. But yeah, so we have up to 5, as long as we have 2 of those that fit in the Ingress Nginx bucket. But unfortunately, this means that we have a lot of incredibly good proposals that are not going to make it into this release. And I wish we could fit all of these in, because all of that, like, I want all of them yesterday. But realistically, if you look at review bandwidth and just any other form of bandwidth, we are limited in what we can take on here. So hopefully this is a realistic set.
There is an interesting question where at least a couple of these are things where the outcome is likely to be kind of the first stage informational definitions gap, as opposed to this is a thing everybody ought to go do. And so I'm a little curious whether we should really count those as experimental slots, or if we should just,
That's my thought
if we
on
should treat them
slots,
something differently.
like if the intended output is a provisional gap rather than like actually making an API change.
Yeah.
I
Like, east-west auth is not likely to turn into a GEP for a protocol change, an API change right now.
Well, wouldn't
Default
this be a net
gateways,
new API?
east-west auth eventually is a net new API, I think.
So I like that feels to me like something where you can move a bit faster theoretically, because if your V1 Alpha 1 is just completely broken, well, okay, we'll do a V1 Alpha 2.
Likewise, external gateways from from me is likely to start with a GEP that defines the problem so that we can start arguing about, so that we can start properly discussing it rather than proposing an API change. And so there's a bit of a procedural question for some of these.
Yeah, no, this is a good point. I would say if anyone, has a proposal here where they want to make progress, but they don't think they're going to be able, or they don't think that it's likely they'll get to API stage, then, that's good to leave as a comment here.
Yeah.
I know, talking to Lior, at least, he wants to get this, he wants, obviously it starts as a provisional get, but I know that he wants to get some kind of alpha API out as well, if possible.
I think we should table discussion on that particular point until Lior is around. And
yeah, that's fair. But yeah, if there are any others, if you happen to own a proposal in the top 5 right now, I usually we do some weighting, so it's not, but generally the top 5 or 6 are going to be the, maybe very likely to be the ones that get selected here. So
basically the ones that will be likely selected is east-west authorization, north-south authorization, client cert, external gateway, and default gateways. Is that
yeah,
correct?
that sounds very likely.
Yeah.
Flynn, does that leave you with 2 in here?
It leaves me with 2 in here.
Do you feel like you can handle 2? I'm not, I just know you're very busy, so I don't want to put you.
That's a very polite way to pitch that one. These 2 in particular are both likely to show up as provisionals or definitions or whatever you want to call them. I think I can do both of those. Actually herding sufficient cats to get the API part of the like once we agree on the problem and start tackling the API design, I think it would be utterly foolhardy to try to get both of those into a single cycle.
Okay. So what I hear that we're saying
Mike, were you
here
saying
is,
something?
No, does that make sense?
Yeah.
yeah,
You're good.
and I
Sorry, go
will
ahead, Rob.
say default gateways in particular feels like one that's going to be rather difficult to turn into an API shape. But I don't know. I hope maybe we can do it. But
It's okay. We'll just all gang up on
here's
Nick. It'll be fine.
here's what I see as something that I think most of us are saying in different ways. Between the top 5 gaps, it seems very likely that at least one of them is going to miss this cycle. In terms of is not going to land as an experimental API. Whether that's, I mean, you could pick any from the top 5 and say there's a decent chance. Like external auth is a pretty complicated topic as well. So maybe that's a case for including a more safe win, which I think Mike is suggesting here of the one right below, right on the edge right now, which is gRPC timeouts and retries, which are,
They're 2 separate ones,
two
but they
separate
have
ones, but
some
I would agree with
overlapping
both of those.
information.
yeah.
gRPC timeouts, I feel, has already had a lot of attention and didn't quite make 1.3, but I feel like that's
Same with retries. There's an existing
yeah.
PR.
Yeah. Both of those seem like good candidates.
Okay.
So what are you suggesting to, let's say, start with 6 being knowing that it's super likely that one of the 6 is not going to make it for the release, so we end up with 5, which is our target? Is this what you are saying?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. I do have a question for Flynn about the default gateways. Do
Yes.
you see an API change for this one?
Yes.
I'm super curious.
I'm not. I do not mean to imply that I necessarily see new resources or fields or things like that, but at minimum, we're talking about a change to the semantics of things, and I suspect we're talking about adding at least a field here or there. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of does. I'm super curious to see what the proposal is gonna look like, because it's a super controversial topic, right? So we have
Yeah.
been discussing many different times about it. So yeah, it's a hot
It's
topic.
pretty much everything we can do to make Gateway API more operationally simple for Ana has a lot of controversy in it. And that's okay. There are things that I think we can do that will make it simpler for Ana to use, that we can also preserve the really important things of Gateway API for Ian and Chihiro. But yeah, we're going to have to start digging into that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I would also
And
say
yeah,
that,
Mike's point about default gateways, at minimum, you've got a new supported feature. Absolutely, 100%.
yeah.
You were going to say, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just also thinking default gateways is really something that I've been thinking about as through the light of trying to make it easier for people to migrate from Ingress Nginx. And so, yeah, I think this is important, but it will be, non-trivial to get across the line too. So, Flynn,
Yeah.
if you need help on one of these, do.
Oh, I suspect I will absolutely take people up on that.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a part at the beginning of both of these that is write down the problem and straw man a few potentials and, lay that out for people to start thinking about. And weirdly, I actually have a lot of stuff written for both of these already because I had to explain to Buoyant why I was spending so much time in Gateway API meetings. Not not in any
I get it.
confrontational manner,
Yeah.
just like, oh, hey, what was up, right? So I'm not concerned about that part. Both of them are massive amounts of cat herding to actually get across the line for an actual API change. And so, yeah, that'll be good to have more people on board.
Right.
Cool.
All right.
Uh,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are we done with the
Yeah, I
starting
think
phase
so.
discussion? Okay.
The couple other notes I'll say, we had said up front that we were going to have dates up front for the entire release cycle. I think Shane will try to do that soon, but he's been, busy at Red Hat Summit. The key thing that we're trying to take away from this release is incremental milestones where missing any individual milestone will pull yours out of the release. So it's not just all the GEPs need to be in by a certain date, but you need to have, a PR by an earlier milestone. So we don't have, 5 GEP PRs at, 2 days before a freeze and everyone's scrambling. So anyway, look for dates soon. Shane will also send out some kind of formal thing on which enhancements made it in. But I think that right now, sorting by the most requested features seems like a pretty good predictor of what's gonna make it into the list.
Just as a side note, the feature freeze target date is
Yeah, I
October
think
the
that's
10th.
too far. I don't know what he intended by that, but I think that's farther away than what we're. Yeah, that's way farther away than what we want.
That seems more like it's the point at which support and people should be running like that. That feels like the date at which implementations should be reporting conformance with the new things rather than
Yeah.
the date at which the features should be complete. Did that make any
Yeah,
sense?
I mean, ideally we want to get our release cycle down so it's taking 4 months total. If we're already a few weeks into our release cycle, even if you add 4 months from today, you're looking at, September sometime for the release going out. I would hope we can get this release out at least by September, if not earlier. So we'll see.
Okay, great. For sure, these days have to be reconsidered. Okay.
Yeah. And I think not to put words in Shane's mouth since he's not here, but I think he's already been, sorting out interim dates and things like that to try to put some more granularity around this stuff. So,
no, I think so.
All right. Get API inference stuff.
Yeah, sorry, I should have put my name with this one. I just want to remind people this is a thing that exists. I'm partial to it. We're hoping to get it to GA, or at least a slim portion of it to GA sometime this summer, maybe around August. It's been exciting to see usage, implementations, all the rest. It's really just a way to do inference specific routing with Gateway API, and there are a handful of implementations already that support this, and hopefully more over time. The thing that I wanted to call out today is this morning there was an announcement for a new project that is implementing this inference extension API, and I linked that below this in the agenda. It's called LLMD. But this is, it's the bullet point below the link to, yeah, that one. But anyway, this is just, I've been focusing on the idea of there's lots of gateway controllers that implement this, but this is a second extension, kind of like if you think of this as really just fancy custom AI LB algorithms, this is another one that is coming out with the VLLM community, which is, I don't know, I think it's exciting, but just FYI, this stuff is happening. If you have a gateway implementation and you want to, add AI focused routing, it's remarkably straightforward. So yeah, just a heads up that this exists.
Something not clear to me is, are the projects competing against each other? I mean, are they kind of in the same field, or they are just related to different aspects of the LLM routing?
Oh, LLMD
mean-
is, I mean, there's a lot of, it's hard to read through the noise here, but one of the things, two things I'll call out. One, it is based on and built on top of the gateway inference extension. And two, it offers an alternative extension to the one that is kind of provided as a reference extension in the project itself. But the extension offered by LLMD is very focused on tight integration with VLLM. And yeah, VLLM is one of the probably the most popular model server frameworks that exists right now. And yeah, anyways, that's just wanted to provide a very quick overview of things that are happening in the space. And if you want to have your gateway implementation say it supports LLMD, for example, if you support gateway inference extension, you also support LLMD. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Guy, I guess this is about policies.
Yeah, this should be a quick one. Just to look back on the decisions we made a few weeks ago, saying that I believe to have addressed all of them. So we could use some extra pair of eyes on those. Also, there are a few open issues or open points in the discussion. You don't need to go through the whole thing, but I'm listing the most important ones in the doc anyway. So if anybody has a few minutes to spare, for example, one of the important ones was a request by ARCO to include a list of tables of the current state of the implementation of policies, which it wasn't an easy task, to go through each one of those and see how they do the different, how they implement the different merge strategies and so on. So if we have representatives of the implementation themselves that could take a look, that would be awesome. What else? Yeah, just some minor things. Rob, you left, I'm not picking on you, but you left a couple of comments, suggestions. I don't want to be in the middle of the cross fire here, but I got different opinions from different maintainers, so maybe we could use
are they
additional input there.
Okay, all right. Are they all on GitHub threads then, or are there other channels?
Yeah, I mean they are really minor things. I mean, not really important. The actual status we use, for example, for the rejected or replaced all the gaps, right?
Oh yeah, okay.
Also raising some follow-up questions on the suggestions on using programmed status condition instead of enforced, which, by the way, I agree, just to refine that idea, this kind of stuff. So whenever you get some time, would appreciate some feedback on those. But that's it.
Yeah, no, thank you for reminding me. I've been underwater, but I will try and take a look at these because it is really critical and it's so close to being complete that I would love to just get this across the line.
No worries at all.
No.
Thank you.
Wow, that was actually a quick discussion about GEP 713. I've never seen that happen before. Nicely done.
All right. And Gamma, sorry, Candace, your point is the last one. I called you Gamma, I don't know why.
That used to be my Minecraft name. No, it was actually Gemma. Um, so let's see. Yes. So I started writing this up because I realized I had never fully paid enough attention to the gamma standard. And looking through it, I have a lot of questions about what's in there. And I feel like for a V1 standard component of Gateway API, that it's a bit underspecified. I know the title is bold, it's underspecified, but
Not
I
wrong.
thought
Yeah, I don't.
I didn't mean to be mean in that way, but just to get a little bit of attention.
No, appreciated, and thanks for putting it on the agenda and calling it out here. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is very valid to state that it is underspecified. I would agree with that as one of the people that helped write it. So yeah,
Likewise.
definitely take some time with Flynn to read through here, and hopefully we can come up with some direct answers to some of the points raised.
I suspect
Thank
that
you.
a lot of what we end up doing in response to this is going to be tightening up the documentation rather than changing the way Gamma is supposed to function at the
Yes.
moment.
Yes,
Um,
that's what I would expect as well. And the
but
work performance, where we
yeah, exactly.
Leor did some preliminary work identifying some of that.
Right. And so I think that I absolutely agree that it's fair to say that Gamma is underspecified at this point. Yeah. And we can do better than that.
And
Oh.
I did, I mean, the discussion that prompted me to do this was the question about backend TLS policy service attachment being problematic. And I know Mike Morris and Nick Young have done some extensive commentary on that.
I need to add another comment because I think some of my last comment was actually incorrect, and it was based on my misunderstanding the actual gap. So I owe you a bit of an update there.
Oh, okay. But I mean, to put it very simply, I had no idea that Gateway API had a V1 standard that I mean, this issue is what taught me this. It actually allowed and encouraged, in some cases, there to be traffic delivered without a route assigned, which is what I found out through this discussion.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Kubernetes.
So yeah,
well, wait, hang on a second. Kubernetes as a whole allows traffic to be delivered without the presence of HTTP routes, and
exactly, yeah.
HTTP routes started existing in order to permit traffic to transit and ingress, really, right? Like in the sense that if you're talking about east-west traffic, it should just work without an HTTP route because you're not crossing any administrative boundary. You're just going service to service or pod to service, and that should work. Or Gateway API is breaking the world, and we didn't want to do that, right? But you're absolutely right that it introduces a bunch of deeply fascinating questions about what happens in the cases where routes are present versus routes are not present and things like that. And yeah, those are ugly and complex questions. Mike notes, exists to reconfigure, redirect, or add capabilities to existing traffic flows. I would agree with that. In the east-west world, if you don't need to do anything other than the Kubernetes standard behavior, you should not need a route just to keep the amount of configuration down in the world.
Whether or not there's any mesh, like even if you have
Yeah,
mesh
yeah.
installed in the cluster and you're just using kubedns to dial foo.local like east-west,
That
it
should work.
do that.
Right.
But how is that gateway API?
It's not unless you have an
it's the
HTTP
negative
route present.
space outside of Gateway API of the things that exist outside the spec should continue to function as expected.
Yeah. And to be specific here, I'll pick on Linkerd just because it's the implementation that I know the best, right? One of the cardinal rules of Linkerd is if you have a working Kubernetes application and you install Linkerd, your application must continue working. If you don't do anything else, all you do is you just put the mesh in, it cannot break your application. And in that case, you will get Automagic MTLS and you'll get some Automagic observability stuff, but you won't get anything in particular for reliability because, you know, like we can't just start retrying things for you. We don't know what's safe, right? But in that case, you have just installed a Gamma compliant mesh and you've put in no routes whatsoever, and your application has to continue working according to the Kubernetes rules of network traffic east-west. If you then want to do something like, you know, I actually want traffic that claims to be going to the Smiley workload or the Smiley service, I want that to go to Smiley 2 instead, you add a route for that specific functionality, because now you're doing you're asking for something different than bare Kubernetes functionality. I personally am becoming more and more okay with the idea that if you also want to do something like backend TLS, I'm actually kind of okay to say you have to have a route present for that. But the other mesh maintainers, I believe, may have quite different opinions than I do on that one. We haven't really discussed it yet. It's been an evolution in my thinking over the last couple of weeks or months.
I would like to address that at some point. I feel like it could be a good and easy solution to the issue of backend TLS policy service attachment being problematic.
Part of the reason that I've started thinking in that direction is that having a route makes it very explicit what you're thinking about, and it makes it very easy to reason about things. And not having a route can make it more complex. But we need to.
I don't think it's an easy solution because our HTTP routes in east-west things target a service. They don't like roll. There's still a little bit of fuzziness and implicitness there with like two things that target a service, and it's unclear on intended scope. But yeah, there's definitely like design space to explore and have discussions about for sure.
Yeah. And you know, not to put words in Mike's mouth, but I would hope that Mike and I will have some time in the very near future to go over the stuff that you wrote in this bug and try to tighten some things up, and you know, and respond to backend TLS stuff and all of that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully John as well, but I don't know exactly when John is back from
He should
leave.
be back next week, I believe.
Then he's not taking enough leave. John, what are you doing? Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully he'll be piecing it out a little bit later on.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. I just wanted to introduce this as a topic and bring it to everybody's attention, and hopefully we can address it again in the future.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you for raising this.
In the near future, even.
Yeah. Any other last minute points that you want to talk about? Anyone? Otherwise, I guess we can call
it a meeting.
over. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. And
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.